Hey guys, well, time to talk about the first season of Glee. I discovered this show because it's a show that my aunt and uncle regularly tune in to, and they seemed to like it. They explained to me what it was about, and I thought it was interesting enough to check out the pilot. I liked the pilot, so I bought this Blu-ray and decided to watch it. And my ultimate thoughts are that I like the season, but there were all a good amount of nitpicks that I kind of drop it down, and they're all things that I do have a problem with, but it is still mostly nitpicky. That drop it down mainly only for me, though. Let's see if I can do this in a good, comprehensive way. What struck me as really interesting about this show was the return to like the cliche idea of high school and stuff because well, obviously, as I've mentioned repeatedly on this channel, I've graduated high school and now I'm in my fifth semester of community college. So having gotten an experience that was nothing like the experience in here, it was actually kind of refreshing to go back and seeing the cliche division of, like the cool dudes and the nerds, the not so attractive girls and such. You get the idea? I mean, like, there was some moments where I was, like, burying my face in my hand because it was so cheesy, but at the same time, I did feel like laughing, so I can't completely, fault it. And I was also impressed with how much the music aspect was integrated into this show. Because, well, obviously, since it's a singing club, they're going to do some songs. But I was impressed with a lot of how much they meant to the storyline. Because Mercedes and that I bust the windows on your car, that was a great way of putting a song in there as a story arc. And then there was also tons of moments where the song just took me away, and I was able to forget a lot of the things that I had problems with in the show or in real life. Because in the pilot, when Mr. Shu does that leaving on a jet plane improvisation, I liked that. It carried a lot of emotion, and now that's how I'm always going to remember the song, honestly. And then, just minutes later, the Glee Club doing Don't Stop Believing. That was great. I gotta admit, I actually prefer that version to the original, honestly. Hey. Sue me, okay? But I'm not a huge music guy anyway. I have heard a couple of these songs. I know I've got a silly memory in my head thanks to my father. Ugh, drat, I hate when this kind of thing happens. Okay. But yeah, Don't Stop Believing, that was a great thing. And then when the Glee Club reformed the sectionals, that was just great. Yeah. Like when Mr. Schuster is laughing and you kind of get the idea that he could be crying. I almost was also. That was just a magical moment. Now, I'll admit though, after the first couple of episodes, and in some of the less major episodes, the songs did feel a little more forced and choreographed and less to do with the story arcs, but it still was kind of interesting, because that bit with Mr. Shu and Neil Patrick Harris are doing the duets. Yeah, that was interesting, more for the choreographs though than the actual song, let me tell you. Okay, so that's the uniqueness out of the way. Let's talk about how I felt about some of the story arcs and such. I did like pretty much all of them. It did get kind of repetitive, but the more that I thought about it, I realized that it had to be repetitive because Mr. Shu separating from his wife. That's not something that happens just people go through questioning relationships like this all the time, and people do run into trouble all the time. I would know. My parents divorced, and now they're both remarried, not to each other. And one of my cousins, actually, she recently got married, but her husband had previously been in a relationship with a woman that then cheated on him, so it took him a while to get his faith back into a committed relationship. It's just not a light subject. It's a heavy one. And then like the ongoing romance story arcs with Rachel and then either uh, Vin, Puck, or that Jesse guy. Even though that was repetitive, I felt like it did kind of have to be because in high school people make tons of rash judgments or going through a tough bit with their emotions, and yeah, it's understandable. Even though there were times I was annoyed with her obsessive personality, but I feel like there does have to be someone in there who is kind of obsessed, you know? And then, like Finn constantly questioning what his purpose is. Well, I've been there. I've constantly questioned my purpose, and I still don't totally know what my purpose in life is going to be, or if I'm ever going to fully get my life in check. But I've gotten a lot more confident on my ability to get it in check one day. So there you go. And I'd be impressed to see if his story reaches the point where I think I'm at now. And then Puck, the not bully, just I kind of hate to say this, more manly, cool guy. That was a pretty unique position. I can't really talk about him that much, but that was interesting. And then the cliche story arc of teen pregnancy. That was surprising when it was first brought up, but in hindsight, I'm glad they did because it did lead to several good bonding moments between all the members of the cast. And well, it's a tough issue that out there that happens a lot, even though I think it could be going down a tiny bit in terms of teen pregnancy rates. I wouldn't know. That's something that I am not an expert in and never want to be. And how do I feel about like Principal Figgins and then Sue? Well, since you don't have like the mean, obsessive principal that's constantly trying to shut everything down, that's Sue, it does make sense that you have the more uncomfortable principal. But I'm glad that they actually had him and Sue there because it kind of helped date the show and give a little more cultural references, such as like YouTube being here, some stuff that's going on in California that they mentions that they threw on in there and such. I really like it when shows specify that they're taking place, in our present time, not just by the technology that's in the show, but them actually mentioning stuff. It just helps me relate to it a lot better. And Sue, I gotta admit, even though I didn't really like her character, she was very interesting because she added a sense of feel to the show, humor many times. She does have a soft side, although it's a little tricky to kind of explain just how much that means, and is everything else she's saying really a gag to cover that up, or is she really like that? That's a very interesting question. And I have to admit, towards the end, I was impressed at how she turned from the antagonist to more of like the anti-hero or moderate. Even though I think she still does things later in the show, but whatever. So that was very good treatment of her. So, I've covered a lot of the main characters, covered the story arcs, covered the music aspect. So how do I feel about the season as a whole now that I've explained this stuff? I felt what they produced here was pretty good. Yes, it is a very big combination of a lot of cliche stuff and a lot of original stuff, but it turns out into a nice product that works for many people out there. I'm not as big a fan of it as most people are out there. I'm honestly leaning towards rating this 3 stars, I think, on Amazon, but let me tell you, it did affect me, and it is enjoyable, but it does go through a ride of good, not so great, fine, spikes perfectly when it really needs to. I think you should be able to fill in the blanks, and like I said, even though I was laughing a lot, there were times where I was burying my face due to all the cheesiness. But do I regret purchasing this? Not at all. It's another show that after I heard enough stuff about and experimented with that I hop into and can say that I'm a fan of. And I definitely plan on continuing with this show, at least until season 3, And then I've heard after that there's a bunch of new people that come in there. I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see once we get to season 3. And I'm actually going to allow comments for this show because I've had a couple of spoilers already, and honestly, I get the feeling that I'm not going to be as uptight if I know what's happening in the future. So, bye guys.